What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Jay Rich, back to bring you your MLB props for May the 28th. Now, I know I was off yesterday, but I'm back today, and I got some great plays for you. And I even added a little bit of an added bonus for the batter versus position data that I do look at. So we will be looking at that a little bit, and I will be diving into the plays right now. So let's get into it, and let's take a look at these guys overall. So we're starting with JD Martinez, of course, the hottest hitter in baseball. Well, maybe not the hottest hitter in baseball, but a pretty damn good one for the Boston Red Sox. He's projected with the highest edge overall on the slate. The Boston Red Sox are up against Jordan Lyles today, who is not good, as you can clearly see with the pitch factor of 1.35. The P-Val data that I added is basically how this batter performs versus the pitches that the starting pitcher throws, and making a factor based on the success or lack of success against this pitcher's pitch types throughout the season. So basically what we're looking at is how this player could fare against this pitcher based on the pitches he throws and the frequency that he throws these pitches. And right now, JD is looking like another smash. He's projected for 14.85 points. His total on PRIZEPICKS is only 7, and the P-Val is, I believe, in the top 10 on the slate for the day. So I will be locking in JD Martinez into a lot of plays. And so you see, even though there's no data here, he's never faced him officially, there's a lot of data to support the fact that he should crush Jordan Lyles overall today in this matchup. Now, I know the Red Sox do play early, so if you miss this, you could still catch them later on in the day in the second half of the doubleheader. But for right now, JD Martinez is a smash, and so is Rafael Devers. So if you are watching this video before the game starts, do put those guys in some lineups because they are going to smash overall on the day. Randy Arozarena is a guy I'm probably fading up against Gerrit Cole. You see that he's been playing pretty well, averaging 10 points over his last 14 days with a line of only 4.5 on PrizePicks. They're basically saying Gerrit Cole is going to dominate you and the team is not going to put any runs on the board, which might happen, might not happen. This is the reason why the model works so well, is because it can identify where there may be an edge for a player simply because they have too low of a total relative to their performance and how well Cole actually limits points, which he hasn't very well. He hasn't been playing his best, and he's actually has a positive pitch factor, which slightly gets changed by the park factor and gets weighted to be negative just a little bit. But the interesting part is this P-Val factor, where it's actually a negative matchup for Arozarena based on the pitches and success that Gerrit Cole has with his pitches. And that's the main reason why I'm fading it, on top of the fact that he has a 182 average versus Gerrit Cole with 0 home runs, 0 RBIs, 0 stolen bases. So 0 chance as far as I'm concerned for Arozarena. He could always do it. He is playing pretty well, but not a guy that I think where all signs point towards an over to where I'd want to take it overall. Then we get into Paul Goldschmidt. It's not tough to make the case for this guy. 16.25 points over his last 14 days up against Adrian Houser, who is pretty good. He's actually doing well at limiting fantasy points overall. The park factor is a little bit strong, and the P-Val factor is strong at a 3 overall. He's projected for 14.5 points, and you see his line on PrizePicks is only 7.5. 94% edge, and as well you can see he hits 286 up against Houser with 2 home runs and 6 RBIs. I always love to see that, and he will definitely be a core play once again. Then you get into Julio Rodriguez up against Jose Urquidy, and overall Urquidy has struggled, and the main reason why is that fastball. His fastball has not been very good this season. He's been getting hammered, and that's the main reason why the P-Val is so high for Julio Rodriguez. And as you can see here, looking at his P-Val, that's really where he does his damage. If you throw him a fastball, it's the one pitch that he is really, really successful against, like a lot of guys, but Urquidy in particular throws his fastball quite a bit and has not had much success doing so against opposing batters. So I'd be willing to take the risk here. Rodriguez has been a guy who's been batting in the middle of the order. Only a total of 6, projected for 11. I think there's a great shot he goes over. And it's also important to note that at one point he was one of the league leaders in steals, and he's always a steals threat when he gets on the bases. It's just now that he's batting in the middle of the order, he doesn't run as much, but he can always steal a base if need be in crunch time. So that's always a great X factor to have in the guys that you play on PrizePicks, because it is 5 points overall. Same thing with Ronald Acuna up against Sandy Alcantara, but the main difference here is that while he has a 5.5 total, 10 points over his last 14 days, projected for 10, neutral matchup overall. The big thing here is this p-val data tells me is that he does not play well against changeups, and you can see that in this data right here. This minus 1.5 versus changeups is really what could be the driving factor behind Acuna not playing that well. On top of the fact he hits 154 against Alcantara, it's probably because he throws him a ton of changeups, and he has not been good against changeups this season. He does have 2 steals against Alcantara, so there is potential there. But overall, it's just not a bet I want to make, knowing that he doesn't hit changeups well, knowing that his projection, while it's high, Alcantara could just throw him changeups, and he may really struggle in this matchup. If he can get a fastball, he could be okay, but I think that Alcantara's familiarity with him will cause him to not throw as many fastballs and throw more stuff off speed. Then getting into Rafael Devers, who again, up against Jordan Lyles, and the next pitcher in the second half of the doubleheader is just stupid hot right now. He's projected for 15.5 points, averaging 14.5. It's just insane how well he's playing. 8.5 total on PrizePicks. So again, if you want to stay away from the 8.5, go with JD Martinez. He does have the better edge. He has the slightly lower projection, but that 1.5 does make a difference. And Devers needs JD to drive him in. And while I totally believe that he can, it just comes down to is, do you want to take that risk? They have no history, but the pitch value is really good because, again, that fastball is all over Rafael Devers. He's one of the best fastball hitters in all of baseball, and he has been showing that throughout this season. So while you see JD has been hitting this fastball really well at 3.4 and the slider at 1.7, Devers is kind of all in on the fastball, is positive across the board for all the pitches that Lyles throws, but it's going to be damage done on that fastball for Devers. I do like the over in this matchup for Devers, but it's not necessarily a core play because you could just take JD instead. But if you want to stack them, hey, it worked yesterday very easily. It could just as well work again today against the Baltimore Orioles. And then let's get into Mookie Betts. Mookie Betts up against Merrill Kelly, 16.3 points over his last 14 days. Dude is just human torch levels of on fire right now. Slightly worse matchup, but you can see the p-val number. It's looking pretty good. It's not 0. It's above 3, which is really good. Above 5 is like insanely good, but 3.7 more than good enough to trust. And then you can see here he has a number of 8 on PrizePicks with an edge of 76%. But on top of that, you can see the history against Kelly. 12 at-bats, 333, 2 home runs, 2 RBIs. Dude is just really, really good. And more importantly, this is what I love to see. You see, Mookie Betts has a positive p-val against every single pitch that Merrill Kelly throws. And that's important because you can see the success in the BVP data. You can see the success he's had overall in the majors. And you can see the success that he's had when he's looking at the p-val numbers and how he's fared against some of these pitchers throwing these pitches towards him this season. But the biggest factor here, and I cannot stress this enough, the Dodgers, the lineup they're throwing out today, every single player who is up against Merrill Kelly bats 267 or better against him. So I don't know what's going to happen to Merrill Kelly today, but he could be in trouble. Every single batter in the lineup hits like 300, some hit 400 with home runs, RBIs. It could be really, really bad. Every player on the Dodgers, when I was looking at it earlier, hits extremely well against Merrill Kelly, and it's one of the reasons why I love Mookie Betts. He bats first in the order. That means there's plenty of bats to drive him in once he gets on base. For a guy who's averaging 16 points over his last 14 days, he will be on base probably early and often in this matchup. So for me, I'm taking JD Martinez. I'm taking Paul Goldschmidt. I love Julio Rodriguez. I love Devers, but I'd be willing to pass on him, and I'd be taking Mookie Betts. So that's the core 4 for today. Those are the guys I'm looking at. I didn't go too deep into the p-value data, but as you can see, as I kind of walked you through it, why it's useful and how it can be useful as kind of being a tiebreaker for some of these guys. Most importantly, drop me a like if you like this video, or if I made you some money, that would be even better. Subscribe for future content, and as always, if you tail, give them hell, and if we fail, do not bail. I'll be back tomorrow dropping some more MLB plays. Let's get it today, and I'm out. Peace.